The Silent Hunters. The Zarathi Empire had conquered 47 star systems without losing a single ship. Their method was simple and brutally effective. They would appear suddenly from the void, destroy any resistance, and collect the survivors for their slave colonies. In 300 years of expansion, no species had ever fought back successfully. Commander Vexitar stood on the bridge of the Zarathi flagship Void Render, studying the holographic display before him. The third planet of this unremarkable yellow star showed signs of primitive civilization. Radio signals, basic spacecraft, and scattered industrial centers dotted the planet's surface. The inhabitants called their world Earth, and themselves humans. Another young species, Vexitar mused to his second-in-command. Their technology appears to be barely beyond chemical propulsion. This will be over quickly. Sub-Commander Krilox nodded agreement. Intelligence suggests they have only recently achieved interplanetary travel. Their military capabilities are laughable compared to our fusion weaponry and shield technology. The Zarathi had studied human transmissions for months. They watched broadcasts showing primitive conflicts using projectile weapons and crude explosives. These humans seemed obsessed with fighting each other over trivial resources. Clearly, they would be easy to subdue once faced with superior alien technology. Begin with the outer settlements, Vexitar ordered. Standard procedure. Destroy their mining stations and communication relays. Let fear soften them before we demand surrender. The mining station Epsilon 7 orbited the fourth planet when the Zarathi strike force materialized from hyperspace. Station. Commander Elena Rodriguez was reviewing the weekly titanium output reports when the proximity alarms began screaming throughout the facility. Unknown contacts, sensor operator Chen shouted from his station. Multiple ships, configuration unknown, they're huge. Elena rushed to the main display. 3 crystalline vessels, each easily 10 times larger than their modest mining station, hung in space like predatory sharks. Their hulls pulsed with an eerie blue light that seemed almost alive. Open communications, Elena ordered. This is mining station Epsilon 7. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. The response came not through their communication system but directly into their minds. The alien voice was cold and mechanical, devoid of any warmth or emotion. Primitive humans, your species has been selected for incorporation into the Zarathi Empire. Surrender your technology and personnel, or face immediate destruction. Elena felt her blood turn to ice. First contact with alien life, and they were demanding surrender. She looked around the bridge at her crew of 30 miners and technicians. These weren't soldiers, just ordinary people trying to make a living in the asteroid belt. We are a civilian mining operation, Elena responded. We have no military value. Surely we can reach some kind of peaceful agreement. The alien laughter that filled their minds sounded like breaking glass. Peace is a luxury reserved for the strong. Your species will learn to serve, or it will learn to die. The first energy beam struck Epsilon 7's main habitat module. The explosion threw everyone to the deck as emergency systems activated throughout the station. Through the viewports, Elena could see debris and bodies being sucked into the vacuum of space. All hands to escape pods, Elena screamed over the alarms. This is a general evacuation order. The Zarathi continued their methodical destruction of the mining station. They seemed to take pleasure in drawing out the process, giving the humans just enough time to taste despair before delivering the killing blow. One by one, the station's modules exploded in brilliant flashes of light and flame. Elena's escape pod was the last to launch. As she rocketed away from the dying station, she watched through the small porthole as the alien ships finished their work. Within minutes, nothing remained of Epsilon 7 but scattered wreckage and cooling plasma. The pod's navigation system automatically plotted a course for the nearest human outpost, but Elena overrode it. Instead, she directed the small craft toward Earth itself. Humanity needed to know what was coming. They needed time to prepare, however little good it might do against such overwhelming alien technology. The journey to Earth took Elena's escape, Pod 18 days. She survived on emergency rations and recycled water, all the while composing the message that would change human history. When Earth finally appeared in her viewport, She felt a mixture of relief and dread. She was home, but she carried news that would shatter humanity's sense of security forever. Elena's pod was intercepted by a patrol ship just outside Earth's orbital defense grid. Within hours, she found herself in a secure briefing room deep beneath the Global Defense Headquarters in Geneva. The room was filled with the most powerful military leaders on Earth, but one man dominated the gathering. Admiral James Harrison had served in every major conflict of the past 30 years. His weathered face bore the scars of battles fought on distant worlds, and his gray eyes held the kind of steady calm that only came from facing death repeatedly and surviving. When Elena finished her report, the room fell silent. 47 star systems, Admiral Harrison repeated quietly. 300 years of conquest, and now they're coming for us. What do we do, Admiral? Asked General Patricia Wells, commander of the Colonial Defense Force. Our ships are no match for their technology. The alien vessels Elena described are beyond anything in our arsenal. Admiral Harrison stood and walked to the large display screen showing Earth and its surrounding space. Dozens of human ships patrolled the system, but they looked pathetically small compared to the alien threat Elena had described. We do what humans have always done when faced with extinction, Harrison said finally. We adapt, we innovate, and we fight. But Admiral, protested Secretary of Defense Martinez, Elena's report makes it clear that conventional weapons are useless against their shields. How do we fight an enemy we can't hurt? Admiral Harrison turned back to the assembled leaders, and Elena saw something in his eyes that gave her hope. It was the look of a man who had already been planning for this day. Ladies and gentlemen, Harrison said, it's time I told you about Project Thunder-Soul. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Elena had never heard of any project by that name, and from the expressions around the table, neither had most of the military leadership. For the past 15 years, Harrison continued, a small group of scientists and engineers have been working on what we called the Deep Space Defense Initiative. We knew that eventually, humanity would encounter other spacefaring species. We hoped they would be friendly, but we prepared for the possibility that they might not be. Harrison activated the room's holographic display system. The image that appeared made everyone gasp. Floating in space was a ship unlike anything in human naval design. It was massive, easily 3 kilometers long, with a hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, and at its center was a weapon system that defied conventional understanding. The HDSS, Thunder-Soul, Harrison announced. Humanity's first true warship, built in secret at the Lagrange 4 shipyard, powered by technologies that push the absolute limits of human knowledge. Elena stared at the image in amazement. How is this possible? The resources alone would be enormous. 17 nations contributed to the project, Harrison explained. We diverted funding from dozens of civilian programs. The official records, listed as deep space research infrastructure. Even most government officials don't know what we really built. General Wells leaned forward, studying the holographic ship. What kind of weapons does it carry? Admiral Harrison's expression grew grim. The Thunder-Soul is equipped with humanity's first successful fusion lance system. A weapon that can project concentrated nuclear fire across interplanetary distances. Its defensive systems include adaptive armor that can redistribute energy, impacts, and a shielding system based on controlled electromagnetic fields. But will it be enough? Elena asked. The memory of Epsilon 7's destruction was still fresh in her mind. We're about to find out, Harrison replied. Long-range sensors detected the alien fleet 3 days ago. They're coming, and they'll be here within the week. The next 6 days passed in a blur of frantic preparation. Across human space, civilian ships evacuated outer system installations. The few military vessels available took defensive positions around Earth and Mars. But Elena noticed something strange about humanity's response. Instead of the panic she expected, there was a sense of grim determination. People went about their daily lives with quiet courage. Children still went to school, workers reported to their jobs, and families gathered for evening meals. It was as if the entire human species had collectively decided that they would face extinction with dignity. On the 6th day, the Zarathi fleet arrived. Elena watched from the observation deck of Luna Station as the alien ships materialized at the edge of the solar system. There were hundreds of them, their crystalline hulls glowing with that same eerie blue light she remembered from Epsilon 7. They moved in perfect formation, confident in their superiority. "Citizens of the third planet," the alien voice echoed, across every communication channel simultaneously. "I am Fleet Commander Zarthul of the Zarathi Empire. Your species has been judged suitable for incorporation into our empire. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and watch your world burn." Admiral Harrison's response was broadcast on every human frequency. His voice was calm and steady, carrying the weight of an entire species' resolve. "Commander Zarthul, this is Admiral James Harrison of the Terran Defense Force. Humanity appreciates your offer, but we must respectfully decline. We have no interest in joining your empire, and we will not surrender our freedom to anyone." The alien laughter that followed could be heard across the entire solar system. "Foolish creatures, your primitive weapons cannot even scratch our hull, plating. Observe, and despair." The Zarathi fleet began its advance toward Earth. Their ships moved with predatory grace, clearly expecting humanity's few vessels to flee or surrender. Instead, something unexpected happened. Every human ship in the system suddenly went dark. Their engines shut down, their lights went out, and their communication systems fell silent. Even the orbital stations around Earth seemed to power down, completely. Commander Zarthul paused his advance, confused by this strange human behavior. "Are they surrendering without a fight?" he wondered aloud. That was when the moon's shadow began to move. The thunder awakens. The Zarathi fleet had almost reached Earth's outer orbital zone when the first sensor operator noticed the anomaly. Something massive was emerging from behind Luna, something that had been hidden in the moon's shadow like a sleeping giant. "Fleet Commander," the sensor technician reported, his voice carrying a note of uncertainty. "I'm detecting a large object moving out from behind the human's moon. Configuration unknown." Commander Zarthul studied the tactical display with growing interest. In 3 centuries of conquest, no species had ever attempted to hide ships from Zarathi sensors. The tactic was pointless since their technology could penetrate most forms of concealment. But this object had been completely invisible until it chose to reveal itself. "Analysis," Zarthul ordered his science officer. "The vessel is approximately 3.2 kilometers in length. Its hull composition appears to be some form of adaptive metal unknown to our databases. Energy readings are unusual, Fleet. Commander. Define unusual." The science officer's tentacles writhed with agitation. "The power signature doesn't match any known fusion or antimatter system. It's as if the entire ship is some kind of contained energy reaction." Zarthul felt the first stirring of unease. In the Empire's long history of conquest, they had encountered species with unusual technologies before. But those species had also demonstrated their capabilities openly, using their weapons in futile attempts to resist Zarathi superiority. These humans had remained silent until now, revealing their secret only when the alien fleet was fully committed to its attack approach. The human ship that emerged from Luna's shadow was unlike anything in Zarathi records. Its hull was a deep, light-absorbing black that seemed to bend space around it. Geometric patterns covered its surface, pulsing with a soft blue radiance that reminded the aliens uncomfortably of their own biocrystalline technology. But it was the weapon systems that made Zarthul's blood run cold. Mounted along the ship's central spine was a massive cannon that seemed to be constructed from pure energy, held in a stable configuration. Smaller weapon clusters dotted the hull like the eyes of a predator, each one tracking different targets in the Zarathi fleet. "This is Admiral Harrison aboard the HDSS Thunder-Soul," came the human transmission. "Commander Zarthul, you have attacked our people and threatened our world. You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Zarthul's laughter echoed across the bridge. "One ship against our entire fleet? Your species' capacity for self-delusion is remarkable. "You've been watching our broadcasts," Harrison replied calmly. "Then you know that humans have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." "Enough of this primitive philosophy," Zarthul snarled. "All ships, target that vessel. Show these humans the futility of resistance." 300 Zarathi warships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams that could vaporize mountains struck the Thunder-Soul from every angle. The alien weapons had never failed to penetrate enemy defenses before. The combined firepower should have reduced the human ship to its component atoms. Instead, something impossible happened. The Thunder-Soul's hull absorbed the incoming energy like a sponge soaking up water. The geometric patterns on its surface blazed brighter as they channeled and redistributed the alien attacks. When the barrage ended, the human ship was completely undamaged. "Impossible," whispered the Zarathi science officer. "No known material can withstand that level of concentrated fire." Admiral Harrison's voice came across the communication channels, still maddeningly calm. "Commander, you've just made a serious mistake. You see, the Thunder-Soul wasn't just built to fight aliens like you. It was built to learn from them." The human ship's massive central weapon began to charge. Energy cascaded along its length in patterns that hurt to look at directly. The weapon's power signature grew until it rivaled the output of a small star. "Every energy attack you just launched has been analyzed, recorded, and understood," Harrison continued. "Our ship's adaptive systems have already developed countermeasures. Now let us show you what human engineering can accomplish when properly motivated." The Thunder-Soul fired. The fusion lance that erupted from the human ship was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. It was pure stellar fire compressed into a coherent beam that crossed the space between the vessels in microseconds. When it struck the Zarathi flagship, Zarthul had just enough time to understand that his species had made a terrible error in judgment. The Void Render, pride of the Zarathi fleet and veteran of 100 conquests, simply ceased to exist. The fusion lance didn't just destroy the ship, it broke down its molecular structure and scattered the resulting plasma across thousands of kilometers of space. "All ships, scatter formation," screamed the second-in-command from another vessel. "Use evasive maneuvers." But the Thunder-Soul was already moving. Despite its massive size, the human ship accelerated like a fighter craft. Its smaller weapons began picking off Zarathi vessels with surgical precision. Each shot was carefully aimed to disable rather than destroy, forcing the alien crews to abandon ship. Elena Rodriguez watched the battle from Luna Station with a mixture of awe and disbelief. The Thunder-Soul moved through the Zarathi fleet like a shark through a school of fish. Its weapons fired with mechanical precision, and its defensive systems seemed to anticipate every alien attack. "How is this possible?" she whispered to the station commander beside her. 15 years of preparation," came the reply. "Admiral Harrison didn't just build a warship. He built a learning system. Every sensor reading, every tactical analysis, every bit of data we've gathered about alien technologies has been fed into that ship's artificial intelligence." The battle was becoming a rout. Zarathi ships that had terrorized dozens of species found themselves helpless against human innovation. Their energy weapons were useless against the Thunder-Soul's adaptive defenses. Their superior numbers meant nothing against the human ship's impossible speed and agility. But Admiral Harrison wasn't finished. As the surviving Zarathi vessels tried to retreat, he opened communications on all frequencies. "This is humanity's message to the galaxy," Harrison announced. "We are a young species, but we are not defenseless. We value peace, but we will not hesitate to defend ourselves against aggressors. Any species that attacks human colonies, destroys human ships, or threatens human lives will face the same fate as this fleet." The Thunder-Soul's weapons charged again, but this time the target was different. Instead of aiming at the fleeing Zarathi ships, Harrison directed his fire at an empty patch of space near the system's edge. The fusion lance struck nothing but vacuum, but its effects were visible across the entire solar system. The beam created a brilliant flash that could be seen from Earth's surface, a demonstration of power that would be remembered for generations. "Let the galaxy know," Harrison continued, "that humanity is no longer hiding in the shadows. We have taken our place among the stars, and we will not be moved. The surviving Zarathi vessels fled into hyperspace, carrying word of their defeat back to the Empire's core worlds. But the damage was already done. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. In the weeks that followed, the story of the Thunder-Soul's victory spread across known space. Species that had suffered under Zarathi rule began to hope that their oppressors might finally face justice. Other alien civilizations started to take notice of the small but determined species that had emerged from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. Elena Rodriguez eventually returned to the asteroid belt, but not as a miner. She became humanity's first official ambassador to the other species of the galaxy, carrying the message that Earth was ready to take its place in the cosmic community as an equal partner, not a victim. The Thunder-Soul remained on patrol in human space, a silent guardian watching over Earth and its colonies. Its very existence served as a reminder that humanity had learned an important lesson. In a dangerous galaxy, strength and courage were the only guarantees of freedom. And somewhere in the depths of space, other predatory species looked toward Earth and reconsidered their plans. They had learned what the Zarathi discovered too late. Crossing humanity once might be possible, but ensuring they never crossed humanity again required a level of power that few possessed. The galaxy had a new player in the great game of interstellar politics, and that player had announced its arrival with thunder and lightning, ensuring that the name human would be spoken with respect among the stars for countless generations to come.